Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Alisuso, and I am one of the rapporteur from the Group 6. And our lesson is the Lesson 6, which is the globalization of religion. Religion is much more than culture, has the most difficult relationship with globalism. Okay, nganong ang religion is has the most difficult relationship man siya with globalism. It's because ang religion ug ang globalism is lahi kaayo siya, which is ang religion is concerned with the sacred, while ang globalism is places value on material wealth, 'di ba? Lahi ra kay silang duha. Dayon, ang sa religion follows divine commandments. Na ay divine commandments which is katong sa tuang nga mga Christians katong the Ten Commandments. Dayon sa globalism is abides by human made laws. 'Di ba natin mga balaod sa kuan in every country. That is why dako kay ilang kalahian duha. Then religion assumes that there is the possibility of communication between humans and the transcendent. This link between the human and the divine confers some social power on the latter. Furthermore, God ang tawag sa tuwa as a Christian. Then sa mga Muslim, they called Allah and or Yahweh. Defines and judges human action in moral terms, which is good or bad. Religious people are less concerned with wealth and all that comes along with it of living similar with that of the rest of the community. Exposure to culture, top of the line education for the children. They are ascetics precisely because they shun anything material for complete simplicity from their domain to the clothes they wear, to the food they ate, and even to the manner in which they talk lots of parables and allegories that are supposedly the language of the divine. Di ba ang religious people is kuan sila, wala sila pakialam about wealth. It's because they are more focused on spiritual, on sacred. Then um education for the children, they are ascetics precisely because um in terms of their kanang panamit, di ba? Diri sa mua ang church is inig magsimba ka ang babae is dapat mag-wear jud ka og formal. Then sa lalaki po og formal. Dayon in terms of food, 'di ba naman tay klase-klase nga religion ay mga vegetarian, na ay mga dili mo kaon og mga dinuguan, na ay dili mo kaon og meat. So mingana. And even to the manner, 'di ba? A religious person's main duty is to live a virtuous, sinless life such as when he or she is assured of place in the other world, which is the heaven and the hell. On the other hand, globalists are less worried about whether they will end up in heaven or hell. Okay. Kamo, og pangutanon mo, um, unsa man mo, you're a religious person ba or you're a globalist? 'Di ba?
Globalist.
Same with me. Yeah. I considered myself as a globalist kay I don't care about kuan whether ko mag-end as long as I live the life that I will remember. So, sa next slide na.
Next, I- religion and globalism flash over the fact that religious evangelization is in itself a form of globalization. A globalist idea, on the other hand, is largely focused on the realm of the markets. The religious is concerned with spreading holy ideas globally, while the globalist wishes to spread goods and service. The missions being sent by American born again Christian churches Sufi and Shiites. Muslims order as well as institution like Buddhist monasteries and Catholic. Protestant and Mormon churches are efforts at spreading of the word of God and gaining adherents abroad. Religious I, religions regard identities associated with globalism, citizenship, language, and race as inferior and narrow because they are earthly categories. In contrast, membership to a religious group, organization, or a cult represents a superior affiliation affiliation that connects human directly to the divine and supernatural. Being a Christian, a Muslim, or a Buddhist places on a higher plane than just being a Filipino, a Spanish speaker, or Anglo-Saxon. The followers of Dalai Lama established the Tibet for this purpose, and certain Buddhist monasteries are located away from civilization so that hermits can devote themselves to prayer and contemplation. These isolationist justifications are also used by the Zilalistas of Mount Banahaw, the essence during Roman-controlled Judea, now Israel, and for a certain period, the Mormons of Utah. These groups believe that living among non-believers will distract them from their mission or tempt them to abandon their faith and become sinners like everyone else. Priests, zealots, and monks led the first revolts against colonial, colonialism in Asia and Africa, a warning that these outsiders were out to destroy their people's gods and ways of life. Next.
Okay, realities. In actually, in actuality, the relationship between religion and globalism is much more complicated. Peter Bigger argues that far from being secularized, the contemporary world is furiously religious. In most of the world, there are veritable explosion of religion's favor occurring in one form of another in all major religions. Tradition. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and even Confu- Confucianism, if one wants to call it religion. In many places, an imaginative synthesis of or more world religions with indigenous faith. Religions are the foundation of modern republics. The Malaysian government places religion at the center of the political system. Its constitution explicitly states that Islam is the religion of the federation, and the rulers of each state was also the head of the religion of the Islam. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the late Iranian religion leader, bragged about the superiority of Islamic rule. over its circular counterparts and pointed out that there is no fundamental distinction among constitutional, despotic, dictatorial, democratic, and communistic rights. The Moderate Muslim Association, Nudlat, Nadlatul Ulama in Indonesia, has Islamic schools, per, pesantren, where students are taught not only about Islam but also modern science, the social sciences, modern banking, civic education, rights of the woman, pluralism, and democracy. In other case, religion was the result of the shift in state policy. The Church of England, for example, was shaped by the rationality of modern democratic and bureaucratic culture. King Henry broke away from Roman Catholicism and established his own church to bolster his own power in United States. Religion and law were fused together to help build this modern secular society. It was observed in the early 1800s by French historian and diplomatic Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote not only the Americans practice and the religion out of self-interest, but they often even place in this world the interest which they have in practicing it.
Jose Casanova confirms this statement by noting that historically religion has always been at the very center of all great political conflicts and movements in social reform, from independence to abolition, from nativism to women suffrage, from prohibition to these conflicts, but also both of the political barricades. It remains the case until today with the power of the Christian rights as on the Republican Party. Religion for and against globalization. There is hardly a religious movement today that does not use religion to oppose profane globalization. Yet, two of the so-called old world religions, Christianity and Islam, see globalization less as an obstacle and more as an opportunity to expand their reach all over the world. Globaliza- Globalization has freed communities from the constraints of the nation state, but in the process also threatened to destroy the cultural system that bind them together. Religion seeks to take the place of these broken traditional ties, to either help communities with their new situation or organize them to oppose this major transformation of their lives. Religion is thus not the regressive force, it is a proactive force. Some Muslims view globalization as a Trojan horse hiding supporters of Western values like secularism, liberalism, or even communism, ready to spread these ideas in their areas to eventually displace Islam.
The Catholic Church and its dynamic leader, Pope Francis, likewise condemned globalization through a way culture that is fallacy defines that suffocate hope and increase risk and thrift. The Lord Duran World Federation 10th Assembly 292-page declaration message included economic and feminist critiques of globalization, sharing the voice of the members of the church who were affected by globalization and contemplation of on the different pastoral and ethnical reflection that members could use to guide their opposition. In 1998, the World Bank wrote in Religious Leader in its discussion about global property, lead, leading eventually to Oketo's mute and qualified globalization in 2000. The terrorism of ISIS is unlikely to create caliphate government by justice and stability. In Iran, the unhelped challenge superiority of a religious autocracy has stifled all freedom of expression, restored, restored, democrat, uh, restored democratic ritual like election and tainted op- opposition.
Conclusion. For a phenomenon relative or religion, at first there led famous observing regionalization as the problem or potential. One reason for its perspective in the association of globalization with modernization, which are the concept of progress that is based on science, technology, reason, and the law. With reason, has scope elsewhere than morals, cost, or both.
Sige, sige na.
Conclusion. For a phenomenon that is about everything, it is odd that globalization is seen to have a very little to do with religion. As Peter Bayer and Laurie Beeman observe, religion, it seems, is somehow outside looking at the globalization as the problem or potential. One reason for his perspective is the association of globalization with modernization, which is concept of progress that is based on science, technology, reason, and the law. With reason, one will have to look elsewhere than to moral discourse for fruitful thinking about economic globalization and religion. Religion being a belief system that cannot be empirically proven is, therefore, anathema to modernization. The thesis that modernization will corrode religious practice is often called secularization theory. Historians, political scientists, and philosophers have now debunked much of secularization theory. Samuel Huntington, one of the strongest defenders of globalization, admits in his book The Clash of Civilization that civilizations can be held together by religious world views. views. This belief is hardly new. As far back as the 15th century, Jesuits and Dominicans used religion as an ideological armature to legitimize the Spanish Empire. Finally, one of the greatest socialists of all time, Max Weber, also observed the correlation between religion and capitalism as an economic system. Calvinism, a branch of Protestantism, believed that God had already decided who would and would not save. Calvinists, therefore, made it their mission to search for clues as to their faith, and in the pursuit, they, de- they redefined the meaning of prophet and its accusation. This inner worldly as asceticism, as Weber referred to this Protestant ethic, contributed to the rise of modern capitalism.